What if one of history's most famous royal love stories was actually based on a lie? Anne of Cleves has been remembered as the wife King Henry VIII supposedly rejected because he found her unattractive. According to the popular story, Henry saw her portrait, agreed to marry her, and then regretted everything the moment he met her in person. But what if that wasn't the real reason? What if Anne's downfall had less to do with her appearance and more to do with a wounded king's pride? And what if the woman history remembers as Henry's rejected queen was actually the only one of his wives who truly beat him at his own game? This is the fascinating story of Anne of Cleves, the queen who survived Henry VIII and walked away with her freedom, her wealth, and her head still attached. To understand Anne of Cleves, we first need to understand where she came from. Anne was born in 1515 in the Duchy of Cleves, a German territory during one of the most turbulent periods in European history. Her father, John III, Duke of Cleves, ruled a prosperous region influenced by the growing Protestant Reformation. Unlike many royal daughters of the time, Anne was not raised in a glamorous court filled with music, dancing, and poetry. Instead, she grew up in a practical and conservative household. Her education focused on religion, household management, and traditional values. She learned how to run a noble household. She learned discipline. She learned responsibility. But she never learned many of the courtly skills expected of queens in England. She didn't sing. She didn't play musical instruments. She wasn't known for dancing, and she certainly wasn't trained to charm kings. These differences would later become one of the biggest problems in her marriage. Meanwhile, across the English Channel, King Henry VIII was facing a problem. Actually, several problems by the late 1530s. Henry had already gone through 3 wives. His first marriage to Catherine of Aragon had ended in divorce. His second wife, Anne Boleyn, had been executed. His third wife, Jane Seymour, had died shortly after giving birth to Henry's long-awaited son. England was politically isolated. Many Catholic rulers in Europe disliked Henry because he had broken away from the Roman Catholic Church. Henry needed allies, and one possible solution was a marriage alliance with a powerful Protestant family. That is where Anne entered the picture. Henry had never met Anne. In fact, he knew almost nothing about her. But in those days, royal marriages were often arranged through diplomacy rather than romance. To help him choose a bride, Henry sent his court painter, Hans Holbein the Younger, to Germany. His mission was simple: paint accurate portraits of Anne and her younger sister Amalia. Henry specifically instructed Holbein not to flatter the women. The king wanted the truth. No artistic exaggeration, no improvements, no tricks. When Holbein returned to England, Henry examined the portraits carefully among the 2 sisters. Anne became his choice. The political alliance looked promising. Negotiations moved forward. Wedding preparations began. Everything seemed settled. But then came one of the most awkward royal meetings in history. In December 1539, Anne finally arrived in England. She had traveled hundreds of miles to meet her future husband. Naturally, she expected a formal introduction. Henry had other ideas. The king loved romantic stories. In medieval tales, noble ladies often recognized their true love even when he appeared in disguise. Henry decided to recreate one of these stories. Disguised as an ordinary nobleman, he secretly traveled to Rochester to surprise Anne. He expected her to instantly recognize him. He expected admiration. He expected excitement. Instead, he got humiliation. Anne had never seen Henry before. Why would she recognize him? According to some accounts, she simply ignored him. Other reports suggest she became uncomfortable when a strange man approached her. Either way, Anne failed to react the way Henry imagined she would. The king left angry and embarrassed, and some historians believe that this single moment changed everything. After meeting Anne, Henry suddenly became critical. He complained about her appearance. He claimed she was less attractive than her portrait suggested. He blamed everyone involved. He blamed Hans Holbein. He blamed his advisors. Most importantly, he blamed Thomas Cromwell, the powerful minister who had arranged the marriage. Yet historians today point out something important. Holbein had a reputation for accuracy. Modern analysis of his paintings suggests Anne's portrait was likely truthful. Many scholars believe Henry's complaints were exaggerated. The real issue may have been wounded pride. Anne had unintentionally embarrassed one of the most powerful men in Europe. And Henry was not known for handling rejection well. Despite his doubts, Henry could not easily cancel the marriage. Too much was at stake politically. Rejecting Anne could damage England's relationship with Protestant allies. So on January 6, 1540, the wedding took place. Anne became Queen of England. But the marriage was doomed from the start. The couple had little in common. Anne struggled with English customs. Henry found her reserved and unfamiliar. The king later complained that he could not bring himself to feel attracted to her. Whether this was true or simply an excuse remains debated. What is certain is that Henry wanted out, and he wanted out fast. The marriage quickly became a public embarrassment. Henry repeatedly told advisors he was unhappy. He claimed he could not perform his marital duties. He complained about Anne's appearance. He complained about her personality. At one point, he even claimed he disliked her scent. Whether these complaints were genuine or politically motivated remains unclear. What is clear is that Henry was searching desperately for a way to end the marriage, and soon he found one. Henry's advisors discovered a possible legal loophole. Years earlier, Anne had been briefly engaged to Francis of Lorraine. Although the arrangement had never become a true marriage, Henry's lawyers argued that it created legal complications. Using this argument, they began preparing an annulment. Anne faced a dangerous decision. She could resist, or she could cooperate. History had already shown what happened to women who stood in Henry's way. Anne Boleyn had lost her head. Others had lost everything. Anne of Cleves chose survival, and it was one of the smartest decisions she ever made. Rather than fighting the annulment, Anne agreed. In exchange, she negotiated an extraordinary settlement. She received large estates. She received a generous annual income. She received royal residences. And most importantly, she received security. The annulment became official in July 1540. Her reign as queen had lasted only 6 months. Yet Anne walked away richer and safer than almost anyone expected. Henry even gave her an unusual title. He called her the king's beloved sister. She ranked above nearly every woman in England except the queen and royal princesses. For someone supposedly rejected, Anne had done remarkably well. Henry wasted no time finding another wife. His attention quickly shifted to Catherine Howard, young, lively, and dramatically different from Anne. Catherine seemed to be everything Henry wanted. They married only weeks after the annulment, but this marriage ended far worse. Within 2 years, Catherine Howard was accused of adultery. In 1542, she was executed. Anne, meanwhile, watched from a safe distance. Once again, she had survived while another queen paid the ultimate price. After the divorce, Anne adapted surprisingly well to life in England. She learned English quickly. She built friendships at court. Most importantly, she developed strong relationships with Henry's children. She became close to Mary. She earned the respect of Elizabeth. She maintained good relations with Edward. These friendships would later protect her position long after Henry's death. Anne understood something many people overlooked. Kings come and go, but royal families endure. Henry VIII died in 1547. Many of his wives never lived to see it. Anne did, and her life after Henry may have been her greatest victory. Under Queen Mary I, Anne remained a respected figure. She attended important ceremonies. She enjoyed wealth and influence. She avoided political scandals. She lived comfortably while England experienced religious turmoil and power struggles. The woman once dismissed as an unwanted bride had achieved something remarkable. She had found stability in one of the most dangerous royal courts in European history. For centuries, Anne carried an unfair reputation. People repeated Henry's claims that she was unattractive, yet evidence suggests otherwise. Contemporary descriptions portray Anne as tall, healthy, and dignified. Her portraits show a respectable noblewoman. Not a great beauty, perhaps, but certainly not the grotesque figure later legends created. Many modern historians believe Henry's criticism reflected personal disappointment rather than objective reality. After all, attractiveness is subjective. Politics, pride, and personality often matter far more. Anne spent her final years quietly. She maintained her friendships. She managed her estates. She remained respected by England's rulers. In July 1557, Anne died at the age of 41. She was buried in Westminster Abbey. That alone is remarkable. Of all Henry VIII's wives, Anne is the only one buried there. Even in death, she held a unique place in English history. When people think of Henry VIII's wives, they often remember Anne of Cleves as the woman he rejected. But that version of the story misses the bigger picture. Anne arrived in a foreign country. She married one of history's most unpredictable kings. She faced humiliation, political danger, and uncertainty. Yet she survived. She kept her wealth. She kept her status. Most importantly, she kept her life. While Henry's other queens faced divorce, disgrace, imprisonment, or execution, Anne quietly outlasted them all. Perhaps history should not remember Anne of Cleves as Henry V's failed wife. Perhaps it should remember her as the woman who successfully escaped him, and in the court of Henry VIII, that may have been the greatest victory of all.